Okay. Welcome to this session of the Tourette Association's virtual conference. I am Amethyst Johnson-Creekay, the Manager of Information and Referral Services here at the Tourette Association of America. Thank you for joining us today for the Self-Esteem, My Life with Tourettes. We want to thank you, our platinum sponsors, Warner Fund and Pharma, as well as our donors and supporters for making this free conference possible. To support future educational programming such as this, please visit tourette.org/donate to make a contribution today. During the session, we would love to hear from you. Please submit your questions and comments using the chat function on the bottom of your Zoom screen. We will collect your questions and address them during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. It is my pleasure to introduce our presenter, Paul Devore. He is the President and CEO of Pacific Insurance Management Corporation and CEO of FMS Financial Partners, as well as a certified financial planner and chartered life underwriter. Paul has authored numerous articles in financial publications. He is also a TAA board member and has been an active member of the organization for 2 decades. Paul received both his Bachelor of Science and Master's in Business Administration from the University of California, Los Angeles. He is also a person living with Tourette syndrome. Thank you so much for being here. Paul, you can go ahead and start your presentation.
Thank you, Amethyst. So the original title of this program was Self-Esteem, but subsequently somewhere along the line, it was modified by someone to add My Life with Tourette's, which kind of sounds like now it's all about me. So I don't know what could be much more boring than someone talking about themselves for 25 or 30 minutes to be followed by a half hour of Q&A about me, but you're in luck. The nice thing about virtual is I won't see you leave. So I grew up in Los Angeles. Amethyst gave you my background as far as education and what I do. Our firm, FMS Financial Partners, operates nationwide. Our people are engaged in financial planning, employee benefits, investments, and insurance. And if I can get the technology working, it's going to be really good. So I wasn't diagnosed with Tourette syndrome until I was 45. And it really happened as a result of my wonderful wife, Anne. We had just started dating and she suspected that I might have Tourette syndrome. I had done some reading about it, but there wasn't much information available at that time. And from what I did read, I figured that couldn't be me. Or maybe it might have suggested it could be me, but denial was in play. So Anne found and orchestrated an appointment with the doctor who was the Tourette syndrome expert in town. Maybe I do hear, maybe I will know when you leave. Is that the dinging? So anyway, when she found this appointment with this doctor, this Tourette syndrome expert, which was a pretty gutsy thing of her to do early in our relationship, he gave me some written tests and some questionnaires for members of my family to complete, which we all did. And then I went to his office, and after about 45 seconds, I said, "So this is to find out if I have Tourette syndrome, right?" So he said, "You definitely have Tourette syndrome. This is to discuss what we do about it." Well, as it happened, at that time, there wasn't much of value that could be done about it. So I concluded that I'll just have to live with it. I made it through the first 45 years okay, so I figured I should be able to make it the rest of the way. The definition of self-esteem is to have confidence in one's own worth or abilities. Call it self-respect, if you will. Low self-esteem, of course, is just the opposite. Now, it's easy and natural for people with Tourette syndrome to have low self-esteem. I mean, after all, we get rejection, we're outcasts, we get ridiculed, a lot of embarrassment. Sometimes when we're young, we get bullied or beat up. There's often a comparison to other people, by ourselves, by our parents, our families, and by others. So to conclude that we're inferior can become all too easy. the challenges that we encounter, the social interactions and self-assessments that lead us almost inevitably to a result of low self-esteem. But we need to realize and accept that TS is what we have. It's not who we are. All people have flaws, defects, shortcomings. TS just happens to be more visible and more audible than many conditions, but I can tell you that many afflictions that are less visible or audible are a heck of a lot worse. There are a lot of terrible maladies that can affect human beings. So when you consider it all, TS isn't necessarily so bad. An anthropologist, Professor Client, told me about some of her research and thoughts, which I found very interesting. She said that a disability is merely part of the path we have to follow to make our lives successful. Poker players use the phrase, you have to play the cards you're dealt. The challenge is finding the balance. This balance between realizing that I have Tourette syndrome and it presents certain challenges versus an excuse for non-performance, non-achievement, and failure. It's a terrible trap that's easy to fall into, a trap of self-pity and low self-esteem, and that's what we need to avoid. Early in my career, long before I was diagnosed, I did a lot of public speaking. Audiences of a dozen to thousands. One time, after I spoke to a professional association of financial planners, I heard what someone in the audience had expressed to someone I know. He said, it's amazing that Paul can be so successful despite his handicap. Well, when I heard that, I said, what handicap? I don't know what he's talking about. I didn't know if I was supposed to be afraid, offended, maybe rethink my life's work. Certainly I was surprised. What is this handicap he's talking about? A few days later, I was still confused. I was talking with my business partner, Gary, and I asked him, I said, I don't understand it. I'm fairly successful. How is it that I could be so successful when people find it so annoying to be around me? I mean, I make all these noises and movements. I do all these things that bother people. How can that be? Well, Gary gave me a very surprising response. He said, I don't think anybody notices. He said, you know, I think everybody notices at first that you're doing something, but after a while, it's just you. It's just who you are. Some people are blonde, some people are brunettes, and some people short, some people tall. So you have Tourette syndrome. You make some noises, you tick. I don't think anyone even notices. And if they do, they don't care. They only care about what you can do for them. Well, what an amazing revelation. Is this stuff that I do, this thing I have, this Tourette syndrome, is it actually irrelevant? Is it possible to rise above Tourette syndrome and focus on my strong points? Is it possible to overcome outside negative influences and achieve high, worthwhile goals? Is it possible that one can indeed have high self-confidence and high self-esteem without being good at everything, just excellent at a few things? Does my success in business and other areas entitle me to high self-esteem? Indeed, success certainly should enhance self-esteem. Well, I believe the answer to all these questions is a very strong yes. Does that mean that I have high self-esteem, a big ego? Well, success is a journey. It's not a destination. It doesn't just happen. It's a constant struggle. But I think I deserve to have high self-esteem, and absolutely so do you. I made a decision then that for me, Tourette syndrome was and is irrelevant. And as national board chairman of TAA, when I came into that position many years ago, I was asked what my vision was for the Tourette Syndrome Association, as it was called at that time. I answered with, my vision, my objective, long range as it might be, is to render Tourette syndrome irrelevant. Doesn't mean it's going to go away. Doesn't mean we're about to cure it. Doesn't mean that I, or perhaps you, don't have to make regular visits to the chiropractor to treat problems caused by some tics. But people who have TS will be able to live their lives, to strive for excellence, to achieve high goals, and to make significant contributions to their families, their communities, and the world, all the while living with Tourette syndrome. So Once again, it's not to say that we don't all experience the problems, the issues, the obstacles, the setbacks of this disorder. Certainly we do, but only to view it, to act as if it's truly not a relevant factor in our striving for excellence and having a happy, successful, contributory life. So what should we do? Well, we can examine the negative aspects of Tourette syndrome. That's easy to do. But then convert it to positive advantages for you. For example, as a young person, I wasn't invited to parties. No one wanted this freak who made noises and did all this annoying stuff at their parties. I had the added benefit of being fat until my first year in high school, which wasn't what the popular kids wanted at their parties either. So I became a musician. When you're standing up playing a saxophone, you can make all the noises, all the movements you want. And I got invited to parties. I got invited to lots of parties. I was getting paid to go to the parties. I think I was actually having more fun than many of the popular people at those parties. I had my 4-piece band, a 5-piece band. Later, I had a 15-piece big band. I was having a ball. And the people in my bands got to go to parties and have fun playing music instead of the normal part-time jobs that kids could get at that time. My plan was to become a professional musician, but an auto accident in my first year of college quickly ended my musical career. That turned out to be a blessing, because while I was pretty good for my age, I don't think I ever would have become good enough to make it as an A-list musician, such as a participant on this screen, Jerry Wechter's father, Julius, was an A-list superstar musician in his career. I never would have been that. I fortunately entered my current profession, beginning with life insurance sales while I was in graduate school at UCLA. It was a great internship opportunity, but I was very nervous. The stereotypical life insurance salesman was gregarious, aggressive, social, a true extrovert. They're good at meeting people and keep pushing and pushing to sell life insurance. I'm an introvert. That isn't always obvious when I'm speaking because I move my hands a lot and I talk loud and fast, but I really am a shy introvert. I'm not very social and I'm not at all aggressive. So I was worried. How am I going to be able to make it in this business where the accepted stereotype is one of extrovert, gregarious, and aggressive? Well, I thought of a way around that. I saw that a lot of life insurance salespeople, even successful ones, didn't know much about the product they're selling. They just know sales and some terminology. So I decided I would become hyper knowledgeable. I'd learn everything there was to know about life insurance, how policies were constructed, how to compare different product types, the uses of life insurance, the tax aspects and strategies where large policies would be appropriate. Then I learned about pension, profit sharing, and 401k plans and estate planning. I would become so knowledgeable that people would come to me for that knowledge. People did come. CPAs and attorneys referred their clients to me, and I didn't have to be all those things that I knew I couldn't be. I think a large part of my success is actually linked to my having Tourette syndrome and OCD. I'll get to that in a couple of minutes. A feeling of responsibility. Well, when you're making noises in class and constantly being disruptive, you might come to believe that you're responsible for anything that goes wrong, everything that's bad. Yeah, that's me. But in my work as a financial planner for business owners and families, I feel responsible for my clients' financial well-being. I'm a perfectionist. That can be a real problem. It can drive family, friends, and staff crazy. I've got to know everything there is to know about a planning strategy, the benefits, the negatives, tax impact, potential unintended consequences that might arise, everything possible before I'll recommend and implement it for a client. Yeah, it's a pain, but clients know and appreciate that this craziness serves them very well. Fortunately, though, over the years, I've learned to moderate my need for perfection in family, friends, and staff so I can still preserve relationships and my own sanity. That took a long time, though, and effort to accomplish. Work for clients, however, don't get me wrong, doesn't get the same degree of leniency. It has to be done right. Perhaps due to some lack of being accepted as a child, I'll work much harder, and it's more important to me to hear the appreciation, thank yous, and accolades from clients than the income I derive for them. It's also a great self-esteem builder. Truth-telling. For some reason, somewhere along the way, I became a compulsive truth teller. There are certainly plenty times when it would be easier and more convenient to do otherwise, just as with any other compulsion, I suppose. But I found that being a compulsive truth teller actually serves me well, because people know that when I say something, they can believe it. It's going to be absolutely true. They don't get that everywhere. I spent so many years of my life being embarrassed that I work to avoid embarrassment. How do I do that? One way, I don't make any promises unless barring some highly unusual circumstance, I know that I can deliver on that promise. More on that later. I've framed truth-telling and keeping promises so far in terms of business and clients. But of course, it's every bit as important for family, friends, employees, vendors, and everyone else that be treated in the same way. It may be something they want to hear, and maybe something they don't want to hear. Either way, they'll know it's true without exception. So let me talk about some tools that you can use to build your self-esteem. First, be the best person you can possibly be. Focus on what you do well, not what you can't do. Set worthy objectives. What do you want to accomplish and achieve in your life, short-term and long-term? Focus on those. I'm reminded of the differences between miners and farmers. Both are good occupations, both are good people. But the miner goes in, be it a diamond mine, gold mine, coal mine, oil well, wherever there's natural resources. He takes those natural resources and resells them at a profit. Contrast that with a farmer. He buys his land, prepares it, plants it, nurtures it, ultimately harvests it, and provides it to others at a fair profit. And then he starts doing it all over again. Farmers add and provide value. Be a farmer. Think in terms of bringing more value to others than you expect to receive back from them. When I do that in my business or any other aspect of my life, it gives me a positive self-talk that helps to build and maintain my feelings of self-esteem. Focus on the positive. Positive energy attracts positive people. Negative energy attracts negative people. There's plenty to be negative about in this world, no question about that. But focus on the positive. Avoid the negative people. This is not to say that we shouldn't acknowledge and deal with problems and negative issues as they arise. Of course we must. But don't be a constant complainer, finding fault with everything and everyone. That marginalizes their self-esteem and yours. Think optimistic. Certainly bad things happen to everyone. I read a book decades ago written by a psychiatrist named Viktor Frankl. The name of the book was Man's Search for Meaning. Dr. Frankl lived during the Holocaust and was imprisoned in a German concentration camp. He wrote about the terrible atrocities, the torture, starvation. They're being used as guinea pigs for medical experiments, hard labor and murder that the Nazis imposed upon the Jews in the concentration camps, some of which happened to him as well. But what he concluded was that people who made it through and survived the Holocaust versus those who did not wasn't what happened to them. They all suffered unimaginable physical and emotional terror. But those who responded to it in a fatalistic way weakened and died, for sure. Many of those who viewed it as one more opportunity to learn and to grow, to look forward to the future, so intensely difficult as that was, those people, if they weren't murdered, survived and flourished. It was a fascinating, thought-provoking book that so many years ago did a lot to change my thinking about how we approach life. How we perceive actions, events, and occurrences versus what actually happens to us. Think about your unique ability, both from a career standpoint and every other aspect of your life. One of the things I found in school, and I hope it's different today, it's been a while, but schools focused on weaknesses. For example, For me, when I was in kindergarten, I could not draw or paint to save my life. I was a total failure at that. So every morning, the teacher would give out the assignments. Johnny, you go work with clay. Michael, you're going to play in the sandbox. Kathy, you're going to play ball. And Paul, you're going to do art. Day after day. That teacher, I'm sure well-meaning, was committed to getting me over what she saw as a handicap of not being able to draw or paint by continuously making me do that which I hated, which is typical, of course, of our weakest subjects, and which I would most likely never learn to do, even at a very mediocre level. To me, it's best to determine those things at which you can be excellent. Certainly, we can't ignore math and reading and science and all those obvious things that we have to do successfully to get through life. But we don't all have to be rocket scientists or brain surgeons. If we learn about and focus on those things we're good at and we like, then we have the potential to not only enjoy our life, but to develop a passion for life. And that's how you achieve excellence. So acknowledge and try to avoid or work around your weak areas. There came the time when I peaked out at 5'8". I had to acknowledge that I was probably not going to make it as a basketball or football star, or as we know, an artist. I had to accept that reality, become comfortable with it, and move on. Had I decided to pursue those sports, I would have been a failure, certainly without any positive self-esteem at all. Seek to identify your personal strengths, your passions, your unique abilities. Constantly strive for excellence, develop high-level skills, and become incredibly successful at anything you set out to do. So how do you find out what your strengths and unique abilities are? Well, depending on your age, you might already know, at least to some extent, those things you like and are good at doing. You can ask your family and friends. They know. Ask 5 people. If you were to select something that I really do well, maybe even better than almost anyone else, what would it be? You might be surprised at some of the things people tell you. You might find that something you thought was a handicap, like OCD, is something that someone might appreciate. Maybe they'll say, what I really like is about you, is that you focus on a project and you keep striving to get it done no matter what. Wow. I thought that was a shortcoming, and you tell me it's a benefit? What an opportunity to get even better and achieve a high level of excellence. Project your best qualities. Don't waste time and energy dwelling on your insecurities. Focus on your strengths. Don't beat yourself up for having weaknesses. Take pride in your strengths. Another thing to do, and this can be a hard one, I can tell you, I know. Accept compliments. If someone says, you do that very well, just say, thank you. I appreciate your saying that. Many of us, when receiving a compliment, tend to respond with, no, it's not so good. Nah, I really could have done it better. I should have worked harder at it. If that sounds familiar, try as I do. Catch yourself. You most likely do deserve the compliment. So I said I would discuss promises. Actually, I promised I would discuss promises. I have a hard and fast rule. I don't make a promise unless I am absolutely certain that, barring some highly unusual event, I can keep that promise. My death would be an example of that kind of event, although a stroke might qualify too. You get the point. Keeping promises gives you credibility and a positive reputation. It makes you feel a lot higher self-esteem than if you readily make promises on which you later have to renege. Or worse yet, you make the promise knowing that you don't actually intend to keep the promise at the time you even make it. When you breach a promise, the other person feels disrespected. You feel bad about it. Hopefully you should feel bad about it. And it's a self-esteem destroyer. Just be very thoughtful and careful before you make a promise, a commitment, and then do whatever is necessary to keep that promise. Your reputation, in my opinion, is absolutely the most valuable asset you have. You could have enormous wealth, but your most valuable asset, the one that's hardest to build, the easiest to destroy, is your reputation. You want the reputation as a solid citizen, a fine person, one who can be counted on to do things right and counted on to keep their word. Another tool for positive self-esteem is the concept of layering versus channeling. Too often, we layer problems and issues. What do I mean by that? So you have problems. You have a work problem. Maybe it's a customer problem, an employer problem, an employee problem. You have a car problem. You have a problem with your house. You have a health problem, all kinds of problems. Our natural tendency is to layer problems on top of problem, on top of problem, on top of problem, until finally I can't take it anymore. I have all these problems. Oh, poor me. Your friends, of course, have plenty of their own issues and problems they're dealing with as they patiently listen to your unsolved problems. A better way, instead of layering it, channel it. What's that? Well, let's say you're on TV watching Channel 2 or streaming a video or a movie. When you're watching Channel 2, what happens to Channel 4? Is it gone? Or is it still running? Well, of course, it's still playing. Channel 4 is going on. Channel 5 is going on. Netflix, Amazon Video, they're all going on. But you're only focusing for that moment on Channel 2. So when you have tasks or issues or problems, channel them. Take the top priority issue and just give it all your time and attention, all of your focus, until you either get that problem solved or you've done as much as you can during the allotted time frame, and then go back to it another time. Maybe it isn't really worth that focus at all, or another issue may arise that has to take priority. That's fine. I understand and I appreciate and I do engage in multitasking. But to be worrying about all the problems you have piling on simultaneously can create a tremendous amount of pressure and frustration and prevent you from accomplishing what you need to get done in a more productive fashion. It makes you feel inadequate, which of course leads to low self-esteem. Always be learning and growing. A lot of people I know say they've grown by several pounds during the pandemic, but that's not exactly the growth I have in mind. Seek opportunities to learn and grow, which you obviously do by the very fact that you're watching this video. Learning feels good and develops knowledge and skills, which should also lead to higher self-esteem. Exercise, very important. When you exercise regularly and maintain a healthy nutritional regime, you feel good. You look good. You have good energy. By the way, you don't have to like it. I used to tell myself when I was out jogging in the cold rain at 5:30 in the morning, I don't have to like this. I just have to do it. Because for that hour of exercise, or even a half hour, to feel so much better, to be healthy, and to stay away from illness is a wonderful thing. It also leads to higher self-esteem. Become involved in the Tourette Association of America and your local chapter. It's a safe, growthful place for us with Tourette syndrome. Taking advantage of the many opportunities to contribute your knowledge, your efforts, and your experience to help others will feel good. It'll enhance your own personal achievement level and your self-esteem. In fact, I find that I learn more by helping others and doing things for others than I do by having someone do something for me. Think about how you can make life better for all people. You don't have to be perfect in every way or great at everything. Just make the best of your strengths. Reduce the focus on your weakness. Identify and work on your unique abilities. Pursue them. Achieve great things. Feel good about who you are and what you can do, because you are terrific. Thank you, Amethyst.
Okay. Thank you, Paul, for an excellent presentation. We are now going to begin the Q&A session. And please also remember at the end of the presentation to follow the link. We always want to hear your feedback and how we can improve.
Oh
And
God,
for those
can I improve?
And for anyone that wants to know, this will be recorded, this presentation, and within a few days, it will be uploaded to the Tourette Association's YouTube page. And for any of those questions, that we do not get to in the Q&A session, please either email myself at support@tourette.org. Again, that's support@tourette.org. And we will also be, if you have any questions after the fact, and we will also be answering you by email for those questions that we don't get to tonight. So we're going to start with the first question, and that comes from Raina. Let's see. Can you describe a little bit more about what it's like working in a professional setting with a tic disorder?
You know, it's like doing anything else with a tic disorder. I think what my partner Gary said really rings. It's not something I talk about to clients. It isn't something I think about or dwell on. I just do my work in the best way I possibly can. I do everything to gain the respect of my peers and others. And I just truck on. Because as Gary said, if you're good at your work, you focus on doing it well and helping people, they don't care.
Okay. And the next question comes from Jade. She wants, a little unrelated, but she wants to know if you have a name for your Tourette's. She named her Tourette's Echo.
Mine is Tourette syndrome.
Okay.
And I'm proud that I have it and that I can talk about it and that I can help people get through it to whatever small extent that I can.
Okay. The next question comes from Maria. What are good books for people with Tourette syndrome to read? Her husband has Tourette syndrome and he's never been officially medically diagnosed. Let's see, she is wondering if he needs to be, and will it make a difference?
It's a really good question, and I think it's well above my pay grade. I haven't read any books about Tourette syndrome. You know, at the board, we have to review and approve research grants that researchers, clinicians, PhDs, MDs are studying. And so I read about that. I don't understand most of it. At the time that I was diagnosed, there was one book. David Cummings, it was a big, thick book about Tourette syndrome. Since I have decided that to me it's irrelevant, I don't know what reading much more about it is going to do to help. I did engage in some CBIT with an outstanding practitioner, one of the originators of CBIT. I have to tell you, I flunked. Whatever the reason, I asked him, when an adult flunks at CBIT, what's generally the reason? He said they don't try hard enough. So I guess I didn't try hard enough, but I just live with it. And I know that's not a satisfactory answer. As to your husband, my own personal feeling, he would be better if he was diagnosed. He must be wondering why he does all that stuff. Maybe he knows about Tourette, maybe he doesn't. But for me, the official diagnosis was very freeing. It gave me a great sense of satisfaction. Okay, there's a name for what I have. I'm not the only one who has it. Other people do too. They live with it. I'm going to live with it. It's not cancer. It's not 1,000 other things that can affect the human condition. But it felt good knowing that there is something that is recognizable that I have. And there's no cure for it, so live with it. That was what I told myself.
Okay. And the next question comes from Raina again. Would you say it's important to surround yourself with people who acknowledge you for you and what you're capable of rather than for your tics?
Well, I don't think people hang around me because I have tics. I'm quite confident they don't. As I had said, I'm not a very social person. I'm the one I've chaired many boards in my lifetime, corporate boards, not-for-profit boards. I'm the guy who can run a board meeting, and then when it's time for cocktails and socialization, I'm going to be standing in a corner. So I don't think people hang around me. They come to me for my professional knowledge, experience, and skill. Family hangs around me because they have to. I have friends. I think they appreciate me for whatever I bring to the relationship, but certainly not because I have Tourette syndrome or because I have tics.
Okay. The next question comes from Ellery. Is there anything you found to help explain your Tourette's to someone who doesn't understand what it is or what it entails?
A really good question. Because of the work of the Tourette Association, formerly the Tourette Syndrome Association, there is such an abundance of information available. And of course, Amethyst knows that better than anyone because of her work at the association. I can refer them to a multitude of websites, predominantly the Tourette Association website, to learn about it. I don't feel it's my place to be an educator about Tourette syndrome. I'm certainly not qualified to do that. I can explain, certainly, it's a bioneurological genetic disorder. It manifests itself in various vocal tics and motor tics, and there's some comorbidity to it. There's OCD, but that's really the extent of what I feel confident that I'm capable of explaining. And beyond that, there's such an abundance of information today that does a much better job than me.
Okay. And the next question comes from Ayla. Do you have any tips for not feeling so weird about ticking in public? I know I get some weird looks at work and then feel awkward.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure you're accurate. I'm not sure you do get the weird looks. Maybe first day, first couple of second days. Now, I'm not sure what your work is. If your work is in retailing, where you're meeting several new people every day, then the initial first acknowledgement of it might be a little bit surprising to them. But absent that, if you work with a lot of the same people all the time, my guess is those weird looks are your own perception and your own self-consciousness rather than actually them doing that. As far as how you become comfortable with it, rise above it. It's not who you are. You have this affliction. Someone in a wheelchair, people may look at them a little differently at first too, but there they are. I just don't think it serves you very well by being overly self-conscious about how you think people might be reacting to it. Give them more credit.
Okay. The next question comes from Melissa. Her son is 10 and he wants to know how he can explain in a positive way to people that he can't always keep promises that people ask him to make about his behavior, and how do you think he should handle the feelings about, how do you think he should handle feelings about himself when he can't keep those promises or make good on those intentions to try to control his tics, I'd assume she's saying.
To me, it's quite simple. Don't make the promise. If my hard and fast rule is I don't make promises I can't keep, not keeping a promise is a terrible destroyer of self-esteem and credibility and reputation. If you know you can't keep the promise, don't make it. You can apologize for not being able to make the promise. Gee, I wish I could. I wish I could stop doing this. I just can't. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry it makes you uncomfortable if it does. It happens to be the disorder I have.
Okay. And the next question comes from Jack C. Let's see. When you meet with a new prospective client, do you tell them that you have Tourette's? If not, do they ask you why you're doing what you're doing, your tics, why you're having tics?
Yeah, great question. 100% of my new clients come by referral. I have this presumption, rightly or wrongly, that whoever is referring me, in addition to telling them I'm really good at my work, might mention that I have Tourette syndrome and that I make noises and I do stuff, but I'm still pretty good at my work. Now, I don't know if they actually do that. I have this presumption that I do. Nobody has ever asked about it. I think by now, in 2021, so many people, whether anecdotally or experientially, in some fashion, have heard something about Tourette syndrome. And if they see me doing it, they might link it to what it is. But I can tell you, I do not get asked about it.
Okay. The next question.
Nor do I feel it necessary to start the conversation with, by the way, I have Tourette syndrome. Now, the caveat to that, on the phone, while I'm gasping for breath and doing the stuff that I do, if someone doesn't know me or can't see me, and I can sense something on the other end of the line that they're wondering. Sometimes someone will ask, are you okay? Or do you have a cold or something? I will say, I have Tourette syndrome. Do you know what that is? They'll say yes or no. If they say yes, end of conversation. If they say no, I'll say, well, it does cause involuntary tics. One of mine is that I gasp for breath, but I am fine, rest easy. If I go to a new doctor as a patient, I'll tell them that too. They don't have to worry about calling in the paramedic or the oxygen tent.
Okay. And the next question comes from Alexandra. Have you ever experienced when you're focused on something that your tics may go away or decrease?
So there's a never-ending question, right? So I was once on a TV show. It was a talk show, and I was on a panel, and the panel was on Tourette syndrome. I happened to be what's now called chairman, then president of the Southern California chapter of the Tourette Syndrome Association. So I was on this panel. The show was Montel Williams. This was decades ago. It's likely no one on this Zoom has ever heard of Montel Williams. But because I wasn't ticking very much, because I was focusing on what I was doing, he asked me, he said, what are you doing here? You're talking, everyone's talking about tics and people are doing it, and you're just sitting there talking. What's that about? My answer had to be, I have no idea, but it's not uncommon. There are actors, there are singers, certainly athletes. When they become so focused on what they're doing, they don't tic. If you ask me why, I have to refer you to someone way above my pay grade.
Packages in the mail because he thought it was his cards that Dad ordered them, and it was a stinking nine.
But something just happened. Amethyst, I don't see you. I see something on the screen. Chrisana Clark with a
Okay.
Paul, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yes, but there is an echo.
Okay.
Can you unmute yourself? And I know Montel Williams, so I'm that old.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah, Paul, we can't hear you. Let's see.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to turn this off if I can. Okay, there goes the feedback. I don't know how I got muted, but somehow I did. I can't turn this off. Okay, am I back?
Yes, you are. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Everyone for that glitch. The next question comes from Marisol. Do you experience any comorbidities that make it especially difficult for you other than your Tourette syndrome?
I think you should ask my wife that question. Does she experience any of comorbidities in me? Sure. I have OCD. I have the tics. It takes me a long time to read something. If I'm reading a page in the book, I may have to stop several times to twist my neck over to the side or look up at the sky or go through some other series of tics. So yeah, that impacts. But I just work through it like any other issue that so many people in the world have to endure every day. I don't know, does that answer the question a little bit, or is it the wrong focus on the question?
That was good. The next question comes from Ellery. Have you found any good responses for when people respond to you as if you were dying of something deadly, of some deadly disease when they learn you have Tourette's?
I'm not sure I understand the question, so I'll answer it two different ways. Number one, if it's while I'm gasping for breath, I just assure them I'm not dying. I have Tourette syndrome, and gasping for breath is one of my tics, but I'm fine. If the focus of their question is, do they think that Tourette syndrome is a deadly disease from which I'm going to die? I mean, who knows? But what I tell them, it is a neurobiological genetic. It's a sexually transmitted disease. You get it from your parents or your grandparents. As far as I know, it's not fatal. It's just a disorder that causes these tics and some comorbid behaviors. Does that answer the question?
Let's see, they said yes. Okay. And that concludes our question and answer session. Thank you again, Paul, for a wonderful presentation.
Well, my pleasure, Amethyst. Thank you all for tuning in. Those of you who are still on the Zoom.
Mhm.
The nice thing about a Zoom is if you leave, I don't know it.
And mostly, and please remember to take our survey. It is in two places on the chat. I'll enter it in one more time. We always would love to hear your feedback and how you felt about this presentation, and I'm sure Paul would love to know as well.
Oh, no.
And in addition, this session will be available on our YouTube page within a few days. And you'll also get a copy of this because you are registered. If you know anyone that has registered and wasn't able to join tonight, they will also be receiving the link for this presentation in their email. And on behalf of the Tourette Association, thank you again for joining us and taking the time to view this presentation. This presentation was presented free of charge thanks to our generous donors. If you appreciated this session, we welcome you to support the organization. May 15th starts Tourette Awareness Month, and we welcome everyone to get out and get active through Miles for Tourette. Visit us at tourette.org to learn more and give. Have a good night, everyone.
Good
Yeah.
night. Thank you. And I know Montel Williams.
Can you put the link to the survey once more?
Oh, no problem.
Only if you're gonna say something good. If you're gonna rag on it, you don't get it.
Okay, and thank you, everyone. You have a good night. And thank you,
Thank
Paul.
you. Thank you, Emma.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.